Good evening, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic week as always. Welcome. Tonight, I thought, actually, you know what? I should have popped Chromium before I started streaming, shouldn't I? That'd be the smart thing to do. Let's get rid of that. In case you haven't read the description or missed my tweets earlier, what I thought we'd do tonight is have a look at this right here. I dropped an advisory today for Metasploit framework. There's a couple of bugs that I shook out in the last few weeks. The bugs, if you haven't read this advisory, the link is in the description below if you want to follow this advisory throughout the stream. The bugs relate to the downloading of files. By the way, if I could get a yay or nay as to whether my audio is good, that'd be great. I've got trust issues. The bugs are to do with downloading files from a victim. So the idea is you use Metasploit framework and you shell someone, right? And you execute Meterpreter on their machine. Their Meterpreter is going to be talking back to your Metasploit as part of the bidirectional communications to do with you actually using your shell. Built into Meterpreter itself, apart from getting into a Meterpreter session, going shell and then just sitting in the shell and doing what you need, there's actually exposed functionality for uploading and downloading files straight through the Metasploit Meterpreter session. And there were some bugs. There were 3 bugs to do with the way in which Meterpreter would report information back to Metasploit, and then Metasploit would make decisions when saving downloaded files. And there was 2 path traversals and 1 just straight up arbitrary file write when it came time to download files from Meterpreter. So to exploit this, what you'd have to do is lie there in wait and be a honeypot perhaps and get exploited by someone using Metasploit and trying to execute Meterpreter on you. And then when Meterpreter kicks off, you would either execute your own malicious Meterpreter instead, or you would patch the Meterpreter, you'd hot patch the binary that got sent down the wire to you and got executed on your machine to become a malicious Meterpreter. And then the malicious Meterpreter would return malformed crafted data back to Metasploit and trigger these bugs remotely. So I thought we'd just take a casual saunter through the details of the bugs. I don't think I'm going to try to refer to this advisory as little as possible. It's a pretty beefy one, but I'm going to try to do as much of it as possible from memory. I've been working with these bugs the last couple of weeks. Hopefully I can remember them off the top of my head, and hopefully I can demonstrate them off the top of my head as well. I'm not sure how long it's going to take. We're just going to casually work our way through. If there's any questions, queries, concerns at any point, please shout out in chat and use my name. That way my IRC client will audio's fine. Fantastic. Don't trust you. It's not I don't trust you, Jardeth. It's that I don't trust my ability to actually set up streaming software to have a reasonable mix of music, audio, and microphone audio. If you've got any questions, queries, concerns at any point, yell out in chat, use my name. My IRC client will tell me that we should stop and have a bit of a discussion about something. What else? Yeah, I thought I would say up front, I went and jammed this section in here to explain why I published an advisory with bugs on Metasploit. Because if you recall, I did a similar thing last year. Found some bugs in Metasploit Pro. So Metasploit Pro, obviously if you're not sure, Metasploit framework is a free open source exploit development framework and exploit consumption framework. Totally open source, totally free to download, totally free to use, and it's I think it's BSD licensed, so if you wanted to, you can repackage it and sell it if you found someone willing to pay you for free software. So it's mostly it's run by a company called Rapid7. Rapid7 acquired Metasploit framework a couple of years ago now, and Rapid7 have been really good to the community. They have allowed the community to continue to have Metasploit framework be completely open source, a completely community-driven project. It's powered by paid employees at Rapid7 doing work on it. So that's pretty cool that a company's basically releasing a large part of their workforce's output as free open source code. But there's also paid contractors like OJ who work on it, and there's also people in the community like OJ. OJ does stuff on the side as well as his paid work. Myself, I do a few little cheeky bits and pieces here and there, but I'm not so much a builder as I am a breaker, so I leave the building of the framework to the pros. So that's Metasploit framework, free open source. I'm jumping all over the place here, but Rapid7 also produces 3 tiers of a commercial flavor of Metasploit. Pro, which you got to pay money for, Express, which you got to pay money for, and Community, which you don't have to pay money for, but it's not open source software. You can't take it, change the source code, give it to someone else, or sell it. It's got a license agreement. So I found some bugs last year in 2016 to do with the Metasploit Pro, Express, and Community wrappers that exist around Metasploit. There was some bugs in the web interface that wrapper came with. And quite a few people kind of said, that's a bit cheeky, that's a bit rude. Why are you dragging Rapid7? Why are you dragging Metasploit through the mud? And that was not my intention in 2016. That was... In 2016, I mean, these are... Actually, did I hit... Yeah, I did hit start recording, cool. I mean, Metasploit's a commercial product, so that was just, me wanting to do some coordinated disclosure of some bugs that affect pen testers. Affect, people who are my friends. I'm not a pen tester myself, but I've got a lot of friends who are pen testers. So I just wanted to kind of make that software better. That's why this whole thing came about. There was a bit of a subtext to this disclosure, though, which also applies to the 2017 disclosure of the framework open source bugs. And that is that people should be mindful of what they run. Obviously, we can trust that Metasploit is not inherently malicious and is not going to... Rapid7, the community around Metasploit, they make sure that the code is not straight up bad code, like it's not going to hurt you. But it's of no real fault of Rapid7 or the community when there's vulnerabilities in it. So you need to kind of use your tools and keep in mind that all the tools you run, be it Burp Suite, be it OWASP's Zap, Dirbuster, GoBuster, WP Scan, SQL Map, all these tools that you run, they interface with remote hosts. And there's been things like bugs in Acunetics over the years. There's now bugs in Metasploit, bugs in PowerShell Empire. There's vulnerabilities in these products. And if you're operating with these tools in a way, and if you're a paid pen tester who's operating these tools in a way that's not you doing your due diligence when it comes to operational security, not running stuff as root, compartmentalizing your work. And that's when I say compartmentalizing. If you've got 2 pen test gigs going on at once, use different machines or use different VMs if you trust virtualization technology. Keep the data separate so that if someone exploits Metasploit, Burp, OWASP Zap, SQL Map, any of those tools are reaching out to untrusted hosts. There's no saying that someone's not going to pay you as a pen tester to pen test them, hoping to exploit your software and exploit you as a pen tester, and then download all of your reports for all your other clients so they can find out where the vulnerabilities are in dozens of different companies. That's, I think, a pretty plausible narrative. It could happen. I'm sure it has happened, and I'm sure it will happen. So what I'm trying to say is be mindful that unknown bugs and zero-day can hurt you, and hackers don't necessarily write secure code. So treat the code you run, treat Metasploit, treat all those other tools as potentially buggy, and when you point them at a remote service, then that service could exploit your machine and steal all the files. So make sure there's no files worth stealing on a machine that you point at any given target. So that was kind of the subtext to both of these disclosures, to say, hey, hopefully this is a bit of a reminder that we need to be mindful about how we operate. Because if you're, and I say it in 2017 advisory, if you are letting the security and the security of your clients depend only on the correctness of the code you run, you're doing a bad thing. Because, spoiler, the code you run is not correct. Whether it's Metasploit, whether it's Burp, whatever it is, it's very hard to guarantee secure code, which is why people are pen testers. They're finding insecurities in the way that organizations use systems and software. Pen testers should be at the top of the list of people not trusting the software they run and taking mitigating steps to compensate for that. So that's my soapbox. That's kind of why I did this. It's not to be cheeky, it's not to be a jerk, it's not to wreck anyone's day. It wasn't to bully Rapid7 or bully the community. Hopefully if you get something out of this, maybe it's a wake-up call, maybe you can start thinking and brainstorming about how you can use tools more safely. Does that make sense, or is that a bit overwhelming? I know a lot of really good hackers who are not such good programmers indeed. I'm a hacker, terrible programmer, don't run my code. Gets the job done, but yeah, it's not good code. Welcome, Volko. Welcome everyone. So, we might, very overwhelming. How's it going, Null? One of these weeks we'll do a Facebook hacking stream. How's about that? So, without too much further ado, let's get on with this. What we've got tonight is we've got a Docker machine in which we'll be running Metasploit. We've got the advisories and whatnot open here, which we can refer to if we really need them. And I've got a Windows VM. Please tell me this is the right snapshot. Yeah, it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to really quickly jump in and start building Meterpreter. Just going to map a network drive. Oh, I bet my Visual Studio license has expired. I bet the eval has expired. I had this problem the other night. Now I've rolled the snapshot back, and I promise I'm going to have issues. I'll leave that chug away. The files we're looking at tonight, I've got a clone of Metasploit framework. This is as of the patch that was released yesterday for these bugs. So I'll be rolling this back so we can play with the vulnerable version. I've got the Metasploit payloads Git repository, which has Meterpreter, as well as some other payloads, and we'll be building the Windows Meterpreter. I've got Rex Core. I was doing some hacking on a library as well. Your license has expired, your trial has expired. Alright, I'm gonna throw up the privacy screen and actually... That's what I want. I'm gonna sign in and actually license my Visual Studio. Bleh. Bear with me 1 second. Oh, it's a lovely process this. You type your email address in, then you get sent to some other login form. Alright, we're licensed. Cool. Alright, now that we've got that done, let's drag the Metasploit payloads C, Meterpreter, workspace, solution file onto Visual Studio. You should only open projects from a trustworthy source. Don't ask me for all of them. The reason why Visual Studio asks you this is because if you build some software using Visual Studio, then that build can actually run code on your machine. Probably even opening a project that's not trusted could run code on your machine. But we trust the Metasploit payloads, so we're going to open this source code, or the solution I should say. So I'm going to build the release x64 build. So this build is going to chug away. It's going to build all the different projects that build up this solution. And later on when we come in and change just one or two of these projects, the build should be quicker because it won't need to recompile everything. And hopefully Visual Studio behaves for me tonight because it was misbehaving the other night. That looks like it's pretty reasonable. Rightio. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do a clean and a build. Just to be sure. Is that building? Is it you going to build? There we go, it's building. Alrighty, so we've got work, Metasploit exploit. So we've got three things. We've got Metasploit framework, Git status. I've got one untracked file. I think that's just part of a previous payload build, so we'll get rid of that. Otherwise, are we up to date? Yes, okay, so we've got the fixes for the bugs we're talking about. So what we're going to do is we're going to read the Git history of this project and look for before the changes. If we roll back to this commit here, oops, no, we've got a fix here. If we go back to this commit here, yeah, let's check out this commit. Because up here we've got the fixes for the bugs we're discussing. So we'll pull, we're not going to pull, we're going to check out this commit. Check out that. And we're in detached headland, but now the project is in a state before the patch dropped, so we can actually exploit it as God intended. And we've also got Metasploit payloads. We don't need to worry about which version this is. We're just going to be using this to trigger the bugs, but they're pretty recent anyway. There's been no changes in the Metasploit payloads. I mean, because these are Metasploit bugs, they're not Meterpreter bugs, right? There was no reason to actually patch Meterpreter, because the bug was in the way that Metasploit would handle the communications with Meterpreter. So Meterpreter didn't change, and we don't really need Rex Core. The payloads, are they building? They look like they're building. So, I guess let's start diving into one of the bugs. Work. Metasploit, Metasploit framework. Alright, so we're going to go into lib, rex, post, Meterpreter. And this here, do we have tree installed? Nope. Don't even have find in, oh, find dot. There we go. All these files here are to do with the Metasploit side of the session handling with Meterpreter sessions. So all this Ruby code here is to deal with basically all the communications between Metasploit and a Meterpreter session, as well as all the communications between Metasploit and an extension that's been loaded into Meterpreter. The extensions we're going to focus on tonight are StudAppy and XDAppy. The StudAppy and XDAppy extensions are where the bugs, the three bugs. Two of them were in StudAppy, one was in XDAppy. We're going to be focusing on those. So what I did was, a few weeks ago I was thinking, I'm going to go see if there's bugs in the way that Metasploit handles Meterpreter connections, because I thought if there was any chance at a remotely exploitable Metasploit bug that, you know, fixing which would help the community out, it's probably going to be there. It's probably going to be in the code to do with actually working with the remote untrusted host. There's probably bugs in modules as well. In fact, there was an exploit published a couple of years ago. Metasploit TCP dump exploit. Temp file. Here we go. So there was actually a bug a couple of years ago. I believe this is actually in a module. Yeah, it contains a pcap log plugin, which when used with the default settings creates pcap files and /temp with predictable file names. And then it's just a typical /temp hard link attack, hard link to the Etsy password, send a packet with a privileged user entry contained within. And this was a local privesc. So it wasn't a remote; it was a local bug, and you could use to escalate privileges. I guess if you've got the ability to sudo MSF console, but not sudo anything. Anyway, there's a bug in that, a local, apparently. The build is still going. I've got a bad feeling this build's going to take forever. So what I started doing is I thought, you know, let's think about the sort of things. I looked at a few different options and ended up finding some interesting things to do with, as we said before, the downloading of files. Do I have ag installed? Yes, I'm doing one thing right. So what I do is, whenever I'm playing with source code, I use a tool called ag. It's like ACK but faster, and ACK is like grep but better. So ag is just a really nice recursive grepper. It probably can act non-recursively as well. But the idea is you just do ag foo, and it will really quickly recursively grep the current directory for the string foo. It will, I think it magically ignores certain boring file types, and I think it magically ignores anything inside .git, and maybe magically ignores anything that's git ignored. Maybe. But anyway, I find that it's just a really nice way of getting a quick grep of a code base done. So what we can do is inside Meterpreter do ag download, and we get a whole bunch of results. And so I'm going to do my best. I don't fully understand how all this code works, but I'm going to do my best to explain what I do know. And if there's anyone who does understand something that I don't know or explain incorrectly, please let me know. So in fs/file, we've got the definition of file.download. So we should probably go and check that to see if that code that interacts in an interesting way with Meterpreter. We've got fs/dir.db defines dir.download. So we've got def file.download, def dir.download. The xdappy extension, the clipboard does def get data download equals. So it's just a variable called download here. There's a TLV with download in it. So the TLVs, as far as I understand it, the communications between Metasploit and Meterpreter are based on TLV, a TLV protocol, whereby messages get sent between the two ends that specify the type of what's going on and the length of the thing that you're sending and then the value of it. And so there's basically a TLV type for each operation that Metasploit can tell Meterpreter to do. And so when you see things like a request being built and then TLVs being added, it's kind of like bundling up a bunch of operations that Metasploit's asking Meterpreter to do. That's my understanding anyway. So we've got clipboard/clipboard has a variable called download. Okay. We've got messages. Is that my lover in the background? Don't do that! Don't tell me there's someone behind me because that scares me. I've got noise cancelling headphones on and anyone could have crept in. Or like a poltergeist child or something could be behind me. What have I missed? What have I missed? Good to see you again, Null. It's for you. Needs more whelms. Welcome, Loco Boy. Good to have you around. I thought someone would like that Metasploit. It made me smile when I created that directory anyway. Is there a good Docker Lamo composer? Demon, what's a Lamo? And why do you want to compose one of them? Want to make it a Metasploit? Nah, Jadeth, you're taking it too far. I think it's just a Metasploit. No need to. We don't need to let this get out of hand here, Jadeth. I like DDGs. Singularity, what's DDG's lack of tracking? Did I miss something? LMAP. Docker LMAP composer. LMAP's still not helping me. Docker LMAP. Lamp? Lamp? Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. As the Metasploit got meta ATA though. What's a meta ATA? No, lamp. Lamp? Demon? Lamp? Demon is tired. Demon meant lamp. Good question. Docker lamp. Is there an image for that? Linode looks like they have one. But it was last pushed a year ago, so it's nice and out of date now. To be honest, I don't really think that you want... mind you did say composer. Demon, are you talking about actually using Docker Compose to bring up a lamp stack? Because that is what I would do. The reason why there's probably no good lamp images is because a lamp image breaks the premise of Docker, which is to have microservices, and each thing should be in its own container. So you should have a container for... Well, you don't need the L. The L's the host. The A and the P would go in one container. And to get that, you would use Docker Hub PHP. And you would use one of the Apache containers, like 7-Apache. That would give you your Apache and PHP. And then for MySQL, you would use a MySQL container. I'm right on the dot. Yeah. So no, Demon. Not that I know of. I've typically just built my own. They're pretty simple. Actually, is there an example? Getting started with WordPress. That sounds like it's going to build you a lamp stack. Yeah, so Demon, I'd start with the Docker Compose documentation and the WordPress example. I mean, you just swap out this WordPress node for a 7-Apache PHP node. You know, PHP : 7-Apache, and there you go. That's pretty much going to do it for you. And this guide here is, rather than just picking up a someone else's Compose YAML file, this will actually walk you through what each part of it means, so you can tweak it to your needs. So Demon, I would go ahead and read this here. Trying to paste 25 lines. Let's not paste 25 lines. I think my paste just failed me. There we go. That could have been embarrassing, pasting 25 lines or something. Alrighty, back to this. Where else are the downloads? Just scrubbing through here. Download is in like a string. I mean, I think I did check this and there wasn't anything interesting in there. But what I did was I went through here and I ended up finding out that file.rb was interesting. Xtappy/clipboard was interesting. And the command dispatcher studappy fs was interesting. That's where I found some bugs, but to find them I kind of just did this ag for download and then read through everything. I'm not going to reread through it all because we might be stumbling upon Ode on stream, which is bad form. You should take what you learned tonight and you should do your own security assessment of Metasploit. Get in touch with the fine folk at Rapid7, tell them what you found, get it fixed in a coordinated fashion, and then drop your disclosure and tell the world about how you did what you did so we can all learn from it. You should totally do that, by the way. If you do find bugs, then obviously it's up to you what you do with them. I'm not going to tell you what to do because you can do what you want, but I chose to disclose them to Rapid7. They're pretty good to work with, and it was a pleasant experience, so you should do the same thing. Let's have a look at fs/file.rb. I think it was file.rb. Was it dir.rb? No, I think it was file. So, you know, let's look at the command dispatcher. Let's look at the command dispatcher studappy fs.rb and have a look at this. The file system portion of the standard API extension. Is this built yet? Build succeeded. Okay, good. We've got a build interpreter. Let's just go and get a shell. Let's get a session. Gem install bundler. Let's just make sure all our gems are in order. Do a bundle install. While this chugs along, I just want to find out how to merge tmux stuff. Join pane to number 1. There we go. We've got code and we've got Metasploit. Probably should have done the bundle install before the stream started, hey? Ah, well. Come on, you can do it. You can do it, bundler. I believe. Large baster. Exactly, Jada. Exactly. Come on. Oh, while this chugs along, we'll just explain this without the help of this. I'll demo it in a second, but the command dispatcher, as the name suggests, dispatches commands to lower level code. So what you'll see here is actually an implementation of things like download command, and it's the options, and it's a object. It's a rex parser arguments object. You know, -h means to show the help banner, -c means to resume getting a partially downloaded file. This is where actually you define the options that each command has. Not that interesting for us, but you can kind of see the place in the world that this file has. It defines the commands that you actually run from your Meterpreter session, or from your Meterpreter console prompt. It then dispatches down to lower level code to actually perform the things that you ask for. Let's go look for download. Alright, so the command download is a function. Downloads a file or directory from the remote machine to the local machine. It's defined as, if the args are empty or the args include -h, then run command download help and return true. And we can see that in a second. If we do download -h, then it will obviously run this command and show us the help. So we need to punch out a... it doesn't either. There we go. Need to punch out a MSF Venom, a PE Meterpreter. So the payload is Windows x64 Meterpreter reverse TCP. I'm using underscores here. We're going to use the stageless Meterpreter, so it doesn't have to then do the back and forth staging. lhost equals this address here. This is the machine running Metasploit. L port is 4444. Format is exe. The output is work Metasploit sploit mx64.exe. This Metasploit sploit directory, by the way, is shared to the Windows box. And there's our Meterpreter. So now we'll do MSF, we'll do /work, Metasploit sploit, Metasploit framework, MSF console. I'm doing the whole path here, so if we cd out of this directory, we can just go up, 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 enter. We'll run it quietly, we don't need the banner, and we'll execute use exploit multi-handler, set payload to this, set lhost to this, set lport to this, set exit on session false, exploit -j. And by doing all this on the command line, we don't have to go and do the blah 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 each time interactively. So when we bounce Metasploit, which we might do, we might want to change the Ruby to add some debug statements. We can just go up, up, enter. And we will rerun the handler. There you go, it actually sets up the handler automatically and starts listening. So now we run the exe. And we go to session. Sessions -i, -1 to interact with the most recent session. We can do download, and it runs the command download help function. To prove it, we can go and just put in a cheeky puts 31337, quit, rerun Metasploit. I always like to just go and print out random stuff like 31337 to prove that the part of the code I'm looking at is actually getting triggered. I'm sure there's more adult ways to do it, like actually using Ruby debuggers, but printing by debug works, if it's a little slow. There's our session, sessions -i, -1, download, and there's our 31337. So this part of the code is actually what's being run when we do a download. We'll get rid of that, we don't need it. So what happens when we do command download? We set up some default options, and then we parse the options that the person threw in, You know, when -r is present, we set the recursive flag to true, or the recursive variable to true. As well as the options list, the recursive key, we set it to true. When it's -c, we set the continue to true. When it's -l, we set some stuff. What does -l do? Sets the limit of retries. So this is setting up the limit of retries. When there's -t, then it sets timestamp to be underscore plus the time. But when there is no dash option, for example, if we were to do download C, let's go and put a file to download on the desktop. Doot.txt, doot. If we do download C users Justin desktop, doot.txt /doot.txt, then each of these two options basically get handled by this nil case here. We've got a case going on. When it's nil, then we do some stuff. And this basically makes sure that we manage the fact that if I had done that, you know, it's download doot and doot2.txt to /, then it makes sure that we consume some stuff here. We do some stuff here. We set the dest. Basically, we'll end up having source underscore items be the list of these two, I think. And dest will be /. In fact, we should just, I want to check that, because I never actually checked that. Puts debug source items equals source items, and dest equals dest. So after we've kind of consumed all the options and we've set up source items and we've set up dest, I'm just going to print out what they're both set to make sure that we understand that yes, indeed, these here are the source items and then that there is the dest. So I'll save that hack, quit. What have we got? Come to the Justin World Adventureland, you'll have a root and doot and good time. Yes. That is going somewhere in the Twitch description. Thank you, Singularity. The Rick Astley remix. I got dinged on YouTube for that one. Singularity. No, yes, I would love to change the... Actually, good point. Straw poll. Do people actually notice that I've only got like an hour and a half of music on loop? Does the music get annoying? Should I change the genre? Should I just add more stuff in? I've been meaning to go and find more free music to add. I just haven't had the time, but I will do that. Yeah, if you've got any good ideas for free music, let me know. The Rick Astley remix, I got dinged on YouTube. I got a copyright claim on one of the VODs. I think it was the Butterfly VOD, maybe, that someone had claimed that I used a particular Rick Astley remix that was copyrighted, and it was a completely different Rick Astley remix. You listen to both tracks, they are just completely different tracks. And I got dinged for about 5 seconds of the remix, and there's no similarity at all between the remixes. They're completely different songs. So I contested it, and then the jerk automated system that had flagged it reclaimed me and said, no, we disagree, and it really is our remix. And then YouTube's like, well, they said it's their remix. And YouTube said, if you want, you can fill out this legal form. Got to give your full name. I think you got to give your address and some other stuff, and basically sign it. You know, I swear under perjury, this is really not the track they think it is. It really is a different track that's free to use. Blah blah blah. And if the copyright holder that claimed my track disagreed with me filling out that legal form and just went, yeah, nah, bro, then I would get a copyright strike on YouTube, and to then go from there, I'd have to go to court to actually get the monetization benefits of that song back, of that track, of that clip back. It was a shit fight, and it just made me really sad that there's a free remix of a Rick Astley song and some jerk copyright bot claimed it to be the wrong thing and didn't back down when I contested it, even though they're completely different songs. There you go, Singularity. You got me on my rant. All right, so we've got do. Okay, so we've bounced Metasploit console. We're going to just check to make sure the source items and dest are as we think they are. Let's run the payload. Sessions -I -1. Download. In fact, do we still have it in the scroll? Nope. Do I have it up here? Yes. It's spread over 2 lines. So debug source items is a list containing the 2 items that we want to download, and the dest is a string which is just /. Cool. So that is this argument consuming stuff is exactly as expected. Get rid of this debugging. So the user gets to specify the source items and gets to specify the dest. If client.fs.file is glob blah dest equals blah blah blah. That's just to kind of make sure we're not saving to a file called star. Go through each source item and download them. So then we iterate over the source items list, which looks like this here. And for each we do glob equals nil, if client blah 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 file is glob blah, set up the glob and set up the source. Use search if possible for recursive pattern matching. So you know what, we're going to take a detour. I was expecting to hit a different bug, but this here is actually, there's a bug in this code here. So we're going to focus on this right now. So for each source item, so this block of code here gets done once for each source item that we specified, right? We specified 2 here. So this block of code gets done twice. So for each source item, we do glob equals nil if client.filesystem.file.isGlob on the source, you know, because we're iterating over source items and we're referring to each one as source on each iteration through this loop. Then glob equals the base name of the source and the source equals the dir name of the source. Right, so for example, if we had done download C drive users Justin desktop doot star.txt to /loot, then this is glob would return true for that string there. And to prove that, we can actually drop to a debugging shell within Meterpreter. So we can run IRB, we get an interactive Ruby shell, and the client variable holds the Meterpreter client. So we can just go and straight up use this client.fs.file.isGlob function, just like that. Is a glob? No. Is a star glob? Yes. Is a question mark a glob? Yes. So it looks like anything with a star in it. Things like this here. Yes, it is a glob. It has the star in it. So, for each thing in the source items list, if there's a star in the file name, then the glob variable, which used to be nil, gets set to the base name of source. Right, okay, so the base name basically takes the last thing in a series of, you know, slashed file name. For example, file.base name of this here is going to return doot star.txt. There it is. So base name gets the very last token in a path. Dir name, on the other hand, gets everything else. So this source equals the dir name gets everything else. Gets the C drive uses Justin desktop. I'm curious, how does this work for backslashes? Ah, okay. Interesting. So backslashes, Ruby doesn't think are file separators, which is probably why when you want to download stuff, you can't go download C users Justin desktop doot.txt /. Helps if you spell download properly. Ah, you can do that. It must actually fix stuff up on the way. Maybe. Yeah, it must do. Okay, cool. Today I learned. So, we set the glob to be the last thing and the source to be the first, everything else, and then we use search if possible for recursive pattern matching. It will work more intuitively since it will not try to match on intermediate directories or only file names. Okay, sure, whatever. So now if glob and recursive and client.commands.include file system search, then we do this code here. So now what's glob? Glob is nil unless there was a star or other glob pattern in the file name that we want to download. Otherwise, glob is a string. So if glob, okay, so we need to have a star in the file name and recursive. Right, so if we go recursive and hit hash, then we see that recursive is set when -r is specified on the command line. Okay, so we need to specify a file name with a star in it. We need to specify the -r flag on the command line to satisfy these two conditions to trigger this block of code, because spoiler, there's a bug in this block of code. And client.commands.include !stood file system search. This to me indicates that the client, Meterpreter, the commands needs to include a particular function. So we'll just kind of copy this, because remember the IRB thing? When we get access to the client variable, which holds the Meterpreter client, we can just run stuff on the client. So the Windows Meterpreter does support this function. Now, I'm pretty sure that the Meterpreter end kind of gets to control what commands it includes during the bootstrapping and setting up of the sessions. I haven't verified that, so even if you weren't exploiting a Windows system, if someone wanted to use this bug against you, I'm pretty sure they can pretend to support this command, so this if query returns true. So, how do we satisfy this? The file name needs to include a star, -r, and I mean the Windows one looks to automatically include this command here. So let's quit that. Let's go and check to make sure we can trigger this. Puts doot. Alright, so if we see doot, we know that we've triggered this block of code here, just to make sure we know how to trigger it. So we'll bounce Metasploit console so that we get this patched Metasploit console up and running. Dive into it. So now if we download C users, Justin, desktop, can't type, doot.text to /loot. We didn't get the doot. Okay, so what if we do a -r? We didn't get the doot. What if we put a glob character? We'll get rid of the -r and we'll do doot star.text. We didn't get the doot. Let's do download -r, a path with a star in it, to /loot. We did get the doot. So here's something else just really quickly that I found interesting. So we have triggered this block of code here, but seeing this reminded me. There was another bug that I fixed as part of fixing these vulnerabilities. And that is the fact that whenever you download stuff, you can specify the destination. Remember, it goes in that dest variable. Whenever you download stuff recursively, it goes to /loot. You can specify where it goes. If you do stuff with a glob, it goes to where you specify it should go. If you download recursively with a glob character, it actually downloads it to C drive, users, Justin, desktop, doot. It didn't download it to /loot. If we background, actually let's not background that. CD work, Metasploit framework. It actually downloaded the file to the Metasploit framework directory, or the PWD, like the working directory of wherever this instance of MSF console is running. Fair enough. That actually got fixed as part of the fixing of the bug. Right, so we can trigger this block code now. That's kind of cool. Let's get rid of the doot. So, what happens? When this block of code gets run, files equals client.fs.file.search source. This is obviously a Metasploit function here. Source, which we know is the directory name of the thing we're searching, or downloading I should say. Glob, we know, is the base name of what we're downloading. And recursive is a boolean, which says whether we are downloading recursively or not, which we know is going to be true because it needs to be true in this if statement for us to even get this far. So it does a client.fs.file.search. Let's copy that. Let's go to IRB and see what this does. So starts off with source, which is the dir name, which is C. Users Justin desktop, followed by glob, which is the base name of what we're searching, which is going to be doot_star.txt. And recursive we know is true. Okay, so when we call this function, what do we get back? We get back a list of hashes. Yeah, I think that means that the square bracket means it's a list, and the curly means it's a hash. I thought we got back a hash. Looks like we get back a list. That makes sense. My advisory is wrong. Of course it's not a hash. Of course it's a list of hashes. Ah well, we get back a hash. The hash says that the path is C drive users Justin desktop. The name is doot.txt, which is, you know, the thing that matched the search thing that we just did. Here it is, doot.txt. If we went and changed this to doot.txt. Ran it again in before new 0 day. Yes, I'm worried about that. If I see code go quiet and then end the stream quickly, you know I've seen something. I've seen it. Alright, why did this search return empty list? Doot_doot.txt. What just happened? Why does that pattern not match doot_doot? Is the underscore throwing stuff off? Why did that pattern not match doot_doot.txt? That's weird. That's really weird. Oh, do_star.txt did match it. See, so we get back a list of hashes where the path is the full directory, the name is this here, and we go to file size. I'm guessing it's a file size. Cool. So then the code that then gets this files list of hashes back does if not files.empty. Then we print the line downloading files.length files.length greater than 1. I puts an optional s on the end. Oh yeah, sorry, files.length. It gets the length of the list and says, you know, downloading 1 file or downloading 2 files or downloading 3 files, just like this here. Cool. Does that and then iterates over the list and does files.each do as file. Source separator is client.fs.file.separator. Oops. So client, obviously, is this here. Metasploit can control that. Interesting. I might have to check that later. Maybe Metasploit can't control that. Maybe that's actually just a single hard-baked thing based on the operating system. Source path equals file path plus the client file system file separator plus the file name. Right, so the source path is the file path, which is this here, plus a separator, / in Windows' case, plus the file name, which is doot.txt. The destination path, and this is what's changed if I recall correctly, it used to be the source path .tr for, I think it's trim and replace. Now if we go AAA, BBB, CCC, DDD, .tr, A with capital Z, then we get all the A's changed to capital Z's. So what this is going to do is going to go, the destination path is the source path, then change any instance of source separator, which is / over to : file : separator, which is always / in Ruby. There we go, always / in Ruby. So the destination path is the source path, which is this here, which is the full qualified path to the file, just with the slashes changed for /. Then we do client.fs.file.download, to the destination path from the source path, and we also pass the options hash or list, whatever it is, through to download. And then we do printing of statuses and printing out that, hey, the download finished. I'm guessing that's what this does on session. Oh, whatever these are, it's probably just printing out status. Otherwise, if the list was empty, we do a print status, no matching files found for download. Cool. So there's a bug, right? Because if we jump across to where was the call to search? File search. Oops, don't have Control P installed. Edit. Lib. wd. So already in post interpreter. Where is client.fs.file.search? Work, Metasploit framework, librex, post, interpreter. Extensions, here we go. Stood API. File system file search. File system, nope. File system.file search. Okay, cool. I think we're in the right place now. So this files list, this list of hashes, comes from def search, file.search, file. File.search, there it is. So this function is what actually powers this here and the returning of this list. So what we do is files is a new array. Request, we just go and create a request of type std.api fs search, and then we're going to append stuff to this request down here. What we do is we do root equals client.unicode filter to code root if root, otherwise if root, then root is root.chomp, get rid of a trailing backslash if root set. So root, what do we end up passing through? The directory, the base name. No, the directory name. So that'll be set, so we're going to Unicode filter decode it. We're going to get rid of any trailing backslashes. We're going to do, my phone's blowing up. One of you jerks SMS text messaging me? Someone is. One message is fine. When you get like 3 or 4 in a row, something's... Okay. No dramas, I can wait. So what we're going to do, okay, so we're going to create a request. We're going to mutate this directory name a little bit. Then we're going to add some fields to the request we're sending off. So this is all Metasploit getting ready to tell Meterpreter how to do the search we're doing. It's going to add the root, the glob, and the recurse flag to some fields in the request. So we do response equals client.sendRequest, request with a timeout. So we send the request off to the client, and we assign the return data to response. And then we iterate over, as long as the response result was 0, then we iterate over each TLV type search results, each search result field that kind of came back in the response. We do as results. We append to the files, the empty files array, a hash, which is the path is Unicode filtering code. We're going to get the path, we're going to remove a trailing backslash. The name is going to be Unicode filtering code. The file name, the size is going to be results.get TLV value, the file size. Then we end, and we return files. So files, everything, absolutely everything in each of these hashes that forms this list it was controlled by the data we got back from Meterpreter. So Meterpreter can say that any of these values are whatever it wants. So the attacker controls all those values. Going back to where that was iterated over, files.each, this fs.file.download, it downloads to the destination path. The destination path is a light little trim and replace over the source path, and the source path is a concatenation of the file path and the file name. So that's just like a straight up arbitrary file write, because there's nothing stopping this path here from being /root/.ssh and the name from being authorized keys. We're not going to exploit it as a arbitrary file write. We're going to exploit it as a directory traversal just to make the hacking on Meterpreter a little bit easier. So I'm going to take a quick 5-minute break. If anyone needs to grab an adult beverage, grab some snacks, get the tendies out of the oven. Do we have any questions before we go to a break? Notice it's not heaps of 9, notice the repeats. More of the same is good. This course I pay for is a rip-off. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll make sure I add some stuff when I get a chance. Gee, the dogs aren't happy. Hot English. Oh, good call, Singularity. So you added that to the dipping source. So Singularity, while we're taking a break, tell us the entirety of this dipping source. That sounds good. Conclusion of a culinary genius. What kind of streamer likes to highlight text behind their image? What kind of streamer likes to behind their... Oh, was I... My bad. I am such a jerk. That's not that... I'm not covering up that much. Is there really a place for me tonight? There's not, is there? What if we just do this? Can you see me? Down in the corner? That'll do for tonight. What's important is the code, not me. When we're doing full screen text stuff, there's not much of a good place for my face, unfortunately. Sorry about that. Hopefully nothing important was missed. Yeah, my roomies have friends over tonight. Alright, good. I'm going to take a quick break. If you need to grab an adult beverage, if you need to get your tendies, if you need to make some more dipping sauce because you're a culinary genius, now's the time. I'll see you on the other side of this break. Bye!
I'm running away from this pain. I'm trying to find a new way where the sun's shining down on my face. I'm running away. You're in a toxic relationship. Time to be free. I'm trying to find a new way where the sun's shining down on my face. I'm running away. You're in a toxic relationship. Time to be free.
Alrighty, we're back. And while I took the opportunity, I took the opportunity to check if I just found 0 day on stream, and I didn't. I did find end day. I found something that got patched accidentally in what just got done. That was lucky. Anyway, inside librex post interpreter, inside the unpatched version, we can go ahead. We can look for def file. I think we look for def file separator. Yeah, so in def file separator, let's go and have a look at how it's defined. Returns the directory separator, i.e. / on Unix, / on Windows. The separator won't change, so we cache it, so we keep a copy of it. But if there's no copy, then we do a request and we actually ask the remote host, hey, what is your file system separator? And we then set the global to be whatever we got back. So the attacker totally controls, what was it? client.fs.file.separator. So if we look in the old version of the code, did I go out last weekend? Yes. That's a creepy question, Null. Fast Char, good to have you around. We're going through bugs and going through the fact that I thought for a second I'd actually found 0 day on stream, which would have been hilariously bad. I would have felt very guilty about that. So this value is controllable by the attacker in the old code. Well, actually, we'll go to the new code. Librex post interpreter. We'll ag for it, and we get the same amount of hits. No, we're good. Okay, so in the old code, let's look at fs/dir.rb. Let's vim that. Get a copy of this. Let's look for it. All right, so there's a source item being built in the downloading of a directory. This is scary. I didn't check if source item was used later in this function. So there's source item there. So source item contains the tainted value that the attacker controls. We stat the file. That's nothing exciting. We stat.call. We probably print some stuff out. That's fine. And then we stat.call to print some stuff out saying we're downloading it. And then we do a download from source item. We stat. Okay, so it's all to do with the source. So, hooray! Interpreter can poison you and tell you to download stuff with the wrong characters in the file name. Not a big deal. I mean, if someone can patch their interpreter, they're just going to make it not let you download files. So that's not a Metasploit bug at all. That's fine. We're also going to see other references to this in this file. Next, here we go. Uploads the contents of a local directory to a remote directory, optionally in a recursive fashion. It's to do with the destination path. So, hooray! The dest item. The interpreter can poison your dest item and make you write stuff to the wrong place. That's not that interesting. So they're not bugs. However, in the old code, in the command dispatcher, actually, you know what? We're already looking at the command dispatcher, aren't we? Here it is. So the source path can be poisoned and have be built by concatenation and have directory traversal sequences in it. And then the dest path is the source path, trim and replaced, and we swap one character out for another. But the source path at this point has malicious characters baked into it. The new code the patch builds the dest path not based on source path anymore. So we do a search for source path. We'll see that the dest path is actually using file.join to construct a file path based on the user supplied destination, and then we do a clean path to remove directory traversal sequences from file path, trim and replace the source separator with the real separator. This here is just being used in a TR, so that's not a problem. So we're good. No 0 day, just a bug that accidentally got murdered in my patch for the other bug. And it looks like there's nowhere else inside Where am I? Here. Looks like there's it's actually not what I wanted to do. This here. Looks like there's nowhere else inside librex post interpreter that actually uses the client's FS file separator, but we should keep in mind to not trust this value when we're writing future code because it is controlled by the attacker. Got caught on video. What did I get caught doing? Oh, really? What video did I get caught in? And where was I? And what was I doing? I'm not showing that. Let me check what I got caught doing. Facebook post, hey? No, I'm going to look at that in the break, hey? Because the audio is probably going to spurt over the stream anyway. Interesting. I will, thanks for the heads up. That is super creepy. Super creepy, Noel. Thank you, but creepy. Alright, so let's, what are we going to do? We're going to actually exploit this bug, aren't we? So we've discussed the fact that, actually, this is stretching on a bit. We're probably not going to get through all 3 bugs tonight. How about we just do 1 bug? Because the idea is the same for all 3 bugs. I mean, they're all the same sort of thing, you know, building file paths by concatenation where the attacker controls part of the file path. If you want to read about the other 2 bugs, go and read the advisory. Otherwise, we're going to exploit this and then we'll have an early night. But this should at least get across the point, and it should make the advisory more readable. If you're struggling with some of the sections, you'll go, oh, okay, I get now why that was part of the POC. So what are we doing? We're iterating over a list, and we're trusting, that's right, we're trusting this stuff here. So what we should do is find a way for Meterpreter to go and include malicious stuff in the results of this file search. So heading over to Visual Studio, let's open up studapi / I think it's search.c. Yeah, search.c. Oh, already open. So Meterpreter support for searching the file system on Windows for a file pattern. Blah, 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 blah. Alright, so let's think about where... Can I like, yeah, auto hide that or something? Yeah, cool. Let's think about where we might patch Meterpreter to go and introduce nasty stuff to this hash. So we've got search add result. Search add result is a helper function to add a search result to the response packet. That looks kind of handy. That's what we'll probably use when it comes time to actually append a malicious search result to the response that goes back to Metasploit. So we'll keep that in mind. Otherwise, we want to look for any interesting functions. I'm sure there's a better way to navigate code in Visual Studio, but hey, we'll do what we can. Alright, so dword search directory. Search is a directory for files. It takes in as arguments the directory, search options, and a packet p response to go and append results to. I wonder if this... I don't want to go back and actually look at my patch. How did I find out where to patch this? Alright, search files looks good. Directory search. That doesn't look familiar. It's not a good way of actually doing things. Doesn't look like what I patched. Performs a search using that. Request routine for performing a file search. Request FS search. That actually matches this roughly. Request routine for performing a file search. Okay, so we got some debugging stuff here. This probably looks like the entry point. Takes a remote and takes a packet. So we've got some debugging stuff. Blah blah blah. Blah blah blah. Search all drives. Blah blah blah. So, okay, so request FS search finished. The dword result was blah. So before that we shut something down. Before that we've got if p response, then dword result equals packet transmit response, and we actually send the p response to the p remote. So probably before this, we want to just go and kind of append our own malicious entry onto the p response, right? So here we've got like a bunch of calls to a bunch of search functions. We've got a search function being called. So these search functions are going to modify p response to actually append search results as one or more of them are called. So we're going to go to do patch here, just to keep that in mind. I saw at the top here there was a helper function to add a search result to the response packet. Search add result takes a packet, takes a wide character string, takes a wide character file name. So this is the directory, that's the file name, and that's the file size. Let's go and just let's call this function to actually go and append a malicious thing onto the end of the response. So the packet p response is going to be p response. The wide character directory is going to be I think capital L's for wide characters. I'm not great with strings and Unicode and stuff, but I did look up here and see L mappy and L, and it looks like L is used to denote a wide character string. So the directory is going to be // a whole bunch of // slashes. Alright, let's kind of copy that, paste it again, go temp/doot. Actually, no, the directory is going to be /temp. With a trailing slash. Sure, the trailing slash probably couldn't hurt. We're probably not supposed to have it there, but even if we're not supposed to have it, then // never hurt anyone. I say that, and someone's going to tell me when // actually hurts when it comes to file systems. The file name is, of course, going to be doot, and the file size is going to be 31337. I don't know if it actually matters. If we get crashes and stuff, we'll probably have to come back and revisit the choice for that number, but we're just going to go and put a nice big number there. Hopefully it doesn't matter. Right, so this should add a malicious search result of // In fact, you know, we should probably make this relative to C drive, and we should probably use Windows style slashes actually. So the reason for the // of course, is to make sure that we actually escape the / character, which is otherwise a meta character. That's what I want. From there to there. Paste, paste. Alright, so C drive, whole bunch of // and then doot, because these slashes, we saw the TR was going to replace them with the /, the Ruby style file separator. So that's fine. Search and result. So we're going to add it to the p response, string, number, save, and build. So now we're building a malicious interpreter. So this is just one way by which one could exploit this bug. And this is a good POC with a lab. If you're going to exploit this actually in anger, you'd probably want to find out how to make sure that you end up with a interpreter session being established from your attacker box to your victim's Metasploit box. You're probably going to want to wait to get compromised by them, unless you know they've got a listener running, in which case you can just go and build yourself a stageless Windows interpreter, run it, and off you go. Otherwise, if you need to wait to get exploited, then you're probably just going to have to find a way to actually patch interpreter in memory. Alright, so we've got a build that succeeded. So when we build interpreter, what do we get? Work, Metasploit, payloads. We get, I think it's C, interpreter output, /x64. We get a whole bunch of DLLs, we get common.lib, otherwise just a whole bunch of DLLs in a library file and a .lib file. Now, what we need to do with these, and they've all got x64 tagged in the file name so that they won't actually collide with the x86 versions, we need to copy these to work, Metasploit framework, data interpreter. Yeah, they go in here. And then when Metasploit needs access to the DLLs that make up interpreter, Metasploit's going to check if there's any DLLs in this directory. If there are, it will use them. If there's none there, then it will use the built-in ones as part of, I think they're actually part of a Ruby gem. So Rapid7 actually builds the Metasploit payloads whenever they need to release a new version, and then they publish a gem through the usual gem release channels, which actually has the DLL binary blobs baked in. But if we copy stuff into this directory, then we get to override the ones that are baked in. Now, at this stage, you might be going, hey, this is cheating. You're modifying Metasploit. True, we are modifying Metasploit. By introducing these DLL files to Metasploit, we're actually modifying Metasploit. But we'll be deleting them before we trigger the bug. So don't get your panties in too much of a knot just yet, because we're doing this just to go and produce a exe file that has the goods and the modifiedness of Meterpreter baked in. Then we're going to get rid of these files, and we don't need to worry about them anymore. So having said that, we're going to rsync. We'll do -av to archive them and turn on verbosity. Archive to rsync just means to copy a whole bunch of file metadata. I'm going to rsync from ~work Metasploit payloads C Meterpreter output /star to ~work Metasploit framework data Meterpreter. That's not what I wanted. Alright, try it again. We don't want to go from output / we want to go from x64 * across to the data / Meterpreter directory. And what that does is it just copies all the files, and if they haven't changed, or if they don't need to be copied yet, it won't copy them. Rsync's pretty clever, uses file timestamps to decide whether it needs to copy stuff or not. What's really nice about rsync is it maintains permissions and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's just it maintains file timestamps. So if you're ever copying stuff between drives, do yourself a favor, use rsync. Don't use cp-r. I have done way too many copies of stuff from one drive to another using cp when I was doing things like backups, not backups, but archiving data off or sneaking data. If you use rsync at both stages, then the timestamps of the file get preserved, so you can actually go, oh good, I can actually sort all these photos by creation time, rather than the timestamp being stomped on and all being the exact same second that you copied them to the disk. Rsync is good because it maintains timestamps and other stuff. So that's been done. Let's have a look at /Metasploit framework data Meterpreter. Alright, we've got the DLLs in place. Now Metasploit will use them instead of the built-in ones. So if we do our ~Metasploit work Metasploit framework MSF Venom, and produce our Meterpreter again, what we're going to do this time, actually, we're going to do something a bit different, is we're going to include an extension. So payload options lists the payload standard options. How do we include extensions? Let's do payload options. Aha, so we get an extensions option that comes with the payload. It's a comma separator list of extensions to load. Cool. So we're going to do extensions equals studapi. Right, so what this is going to do is it's going to produce a stageless Meterpreter executable. It's going to bake the studapi extension right into the payload. Normally, I believe, I don't think you get studapi for free with Metasploit. I don't think with Meterpreter. Maybe you do. I should check this. But irregardless, respectively, what it's going to do is, instead of the normal process being that Meterpreter phones home and says, "Hello Metasploit, here I am, can you go and give me all my extensions and all my code that I need to become complete?" And Metasploit goes, "Yeah, here you go." We actually go ahead and bake in the StudAPI extension right into the payload. Which means that we can now go and remove all those DLLs from the data directory, because Metasploit no longer needs to be contaminated with all that, because the malicious modified StudAPI extension is baked right into this executable. And what's cool is you get these warnings here saying there's a local file, a DLL is being used, it may be incompatible, blah blah blah. So you get a warning saying, hey, just so you know, you do have some overriding DLLs hanging out in your data directory. I think there's a chance you can use your well-known convenient bindings in Visual Studio. Haven't tried it. Yes, I do. I used to, when I was doing some Visual Studio stuff, I was doing the Hacksys driver. I was using this. Yeah, VS. I think it was this one. Pretty sure it's this one. Yeah, it's a plugin to let you use your Vim key bindings in Visual Studio. Good call. Cashew, thank you. So I've set up the extension on a web page. No, Adventure Time, I haven't used. We're not using the beef, and we're not using web pages. Welcome. What we're doing tonight is we're almost at the tail end of things. We're walking through a couple of vulnerabilities that were actually in Metasploit framework. So in the description below, there's a link to the advisory that I released today that has all the technical details of 3 vulnerabilities in Metasploit. So Metasploit was actually vulnerable to some remote arbitrary file write / remote directory traversal vulnerabilities whenever Metasploit was being told to download stuff from Meterpreter. Meterpreter could make it write stuff to the wrong place, basically. So we're going through, and we've gone through the mechanics of one of those bugs, and now we're going through actually, doing up a proof of concept exploit for that bug. So welcome, good to have you around, Adventure Time. So we've built that. What have we done? Okay, so we've produced this, and those DLLs got used, and StudAPI got baked in. Now what we can do is rm work Metasploit framework data Meterpreter *DLL and *lib. Those are the files that we copied in. These 2 exes are part of. They were already there, but the DLLs and the lib file are what we copied in before. So they're gone now, so Metasploit is no longer contaminated by the Meterpreter that we built and dropped in place. We just dropped it in place purely to do this MSF Venom. So we quit that. We don't need to relaunch Metasploit, we need to relaunch Meterpreter. You know what, let's relaunch Metasploit for good measure. Let's make sure that neither of these files that have changed are important. Okay, so we've modified command dispatcher. What have we modified? Okay, that's gone now. I forgot to save the getting rid of the doot doot. All right, so there's no other taintedness in Metasploit. So we set up that handler again. There we go. Let's run our freshly generated brand new Meterpreter. Twitch is shit tonight for me. That's sorry to hear that. It's anyone else having issues tonight? Anyone else having lag or buffering or anything? Alright, so we've got a session. Session's -I-1. Let's drop back down to that debugging shell again. And let's redo that search from before. So we did client.fs.file.search. And what we did last time was the source was C / I think. Justin desktop. No, C users. Justin desktop. And the glob was do star.text. And recursive was true. We send that off, and we get back some results. We get back a list of hashes. We get doot.text, which actually exists at C drive users Justin desktop. And then we get this. We get path is C drive // doot. Am I missing a slash? No, we're all good, I think. With a size of 31337. So that's kind of weird because that pattern, that file name doesn't actually match the pattern we asked for. But hey, you know, Meterpreter returns it as part of what it was told to do, which was to do the search. So now, Meterpreter has demonstrated full control over the results of this function call, this file.search function call. So, files is controlled by Meterpreter, and Meterpreter's got some junk in there already. Then we do files.each, do as file. Source separator is the client's file system separator as reported by the client. The source path is the concatenation of file path and the client file system file separator and the file name. So for example, there's going to be C drive users Justin desktop doot.text, and there's going to be C drive // doot that get iterated over. So the source path is fine. The dest path is then the source path, which was the C drive // doot, trimmed and replaced with the source separator, which is the client file system separator, which is / being swapped out for /. So the dest path becomes C drive .. doot. And then we just go up and do a client.fs.file.download to the dest path from the source path. So if we were to, in Meterpreter, do download C drive users Justin desktop do star.text, this is going to be safe because we're not doing it recursively. This code here only gets triggered when recursive is true. If we do download -r, we get this. We're downloading desktop /doot to C drive users Justin desktop doot.text, and then we're downloading C drive .. doot. Did I forget to put temp in there? Normally I put temp, so I don't need to become admin. That's fine, I'll just become admin. Yeah, I only put doot. Ah well. Download C drive .. doot to C drive .. doot. No, it's not going to work. I'm going to need to put temp here. Sorry about this. I'm going to rebuild. I'm going to quickly do the rsync, quickly generate Meterpreter, and run it all again. This will only take a minute. My bad. So we do the rsync, we do the MSF Venom, and then we remove all those DLLs and library files. Cool. So we've ended that Meterpreter session. Let's rerun the Meterpreter binary. Sessions -i -1. Let's do that download, that recursive download with the glob again. This looks better. We're downloading C drive .. temp /doot across to C drive .. temp /doot, and then Meterpreter crashed because this file doesn't exist. I'm guessing Meterpreter doesn't like being told to download files that don't exist, which is actually, that's interesting. Has that always been the case? Huh. Oh well. Worst stream ever. Yeah, my bad, Singularity. I'll totally get that sorted out. Just send me through your bank details and I'll flick you your refund. Credit card with CCV as well would work just fine. I will indeed. Slickest, where are we? Yeah, sorry about that. It will be up on YouTube tomorrow. And it'll also be in the VODs in Twitch tonight as well. It will indeed get archived. Can I go any fast? Can I go any faster? Sure, I can try. I don't think it would make for a good stream. Anyway, we've got a Metasploit up and running. I don't know why it's crashing, but we should probably go and on the Windows box go and create C drive //temp/do. And the thing is, you can never ... up above the root, right? Even on Linux, you know, pwd. We can go ls ... We can ... till the cows come home, right? Etsy /password, and it's still going to see the file, right? There's you can't ... past the root. You get stopped on Linux. I think you get stopped on Windows as well. I mean, obviously it depends how you're interfacing with the file system, but let's go directory listing of ... all the way up, and then dive back into users. So there you go, directory of C drive users. You can't ... past the root. Like you get stopped. It's like a little door stopper, so you don't go and smash the door handle through the wall. You also don't end up smashing anything through the top of the file system. Singularity, that would be irresponsible and reckless of you to give me your password. I really expect better of you. Cheers, Fastjar. I knew that. Thanks very much for your kind words. Let's go and create /temp/doot. So it's actually got something to download. Temp. And then we'll create a file called doot. Doot. And we did actually have an extension in the code, so we don't get to have a .text file. But that's fine, because on Linux everything's a text file if you can read binary. Good. So we've got our file on the Windows machine in C drive /temp/doot. Now, nothing up my sleeve. Nothing interesting in /temp. There's no doot file there, right? Let's background the interpreter session. Let's cat /temp/doot. Nothing there. It's foreground. Nope. Sessions -i -1. Let's go and do that download again. That recursive download of a file name with a glob character in it. And we get downloading doot to the desktop directory. That's fine. We skipped it. We're downloading C drive // temp/doot to C drive / and C drive. This is just a directory name in Linux in the present working directory, by the way. // temp/doot, and it downloaded it. So if we background interpreter and we cat the file, there it is. We've got this bug here is actually a arbitrary file write to an arbitrary path. We just went and used directory traversal sequences to actually make the exploitation easier, because otherwise we would have had to patch Metasploit to actually serve up a file, because Windows has no idea of, you know, /temp/doot as a full path. So we just went and used the C drive and then a whole bunch of dots to achieve the same sort of thing. So we exploited it as a traversal, but it's actually an arb file write. So that bug there is by the way, I'm gonna have to actually, like, if we go back to my intro slide for the night, I was a bit ambitious. See how it's got all 3 CVEs there? Yeah, that ain't happening. I'm needing a bit of an early night tonight. Got a big day tomorrow. It's my last day at my current employer, so I should be sharp, not in a post-stream mess. So I'm not going to do all the bugs, but this bug here, if we go to the advisory, was this one here, the command dispatcher.command download recursive globbing arbitrary file write. So this CVE here. You can see here, I actually go through and I describe the code, and as we saw, client.fs.file.search was being called with these three parameters. The function's defined as follows, and it is clear that Meterpreter controls the entirety of the contents of the hash named file. That's a typo, that's a list of hashes. My bad. I'll have to give my refund for anyone who paid for this advisory as well, which is returned to consumers of file.search. The only filtering sanitization that's done is to remove a single trailing backslash from path values. And then I go on to say that picking up from where we left off in command download, the file's hash, the contents of which are controlled by a Meterpreter, is iterated over. That was dumb of me because it's a list that's iterated over. I should have realized that it wasn't a hash. Hey, this is a big document. It took a lot of time editing it, so I can be forgived. I think it's forgived for some mistakes. Files are downloaded to locations as per path elements in the file's hash, leading to an arbitrary file write condition. And then the POC is basically the same exercise that we did tonight using search add result, cdrive, // temp /doot. In fact, that code probably perfectly matches what we wrote. I wonder how many dots I was off by. It's going to be way too spooky if it's the same. That's not what I wanted. Do I have, no, I need to turn the shared clipboard on. I was pretty close. I was only 2 off. Not too bad. So there you go. If you want to read more about what went on tonight, then the full advisory has it, as well as the juicy details of 2 more bugs. One of which was just in the dir.download function. In the dir.download function, what it was doing was it was basically performing it was asking Meterpreter to perform a ls of the directory that was being downloaded. By the way, from the point of view of command dispatcher, when you're typing into download stuff, there's no difference between downloading files and downloading directories, right? This has nothing to do with recursion either. It didn't even have to be a recursive file download. When you tell Metasploit that you want to do a download via Meterpreter, a stat gets performed remotely, and Metasploit asks Meterpreter, hey, the user wants to download /doot/doot. Is /doot/doot a file or a directory? And then Meterpreter can go, well, that's a directory. And then Metasploit goes, cool, I'm going to use dir.download, or Meterpreter can go, that's a file. And then Metasploit's like, cool, I'll use file.download. So it's up to the remote end whether it's a file or a directory, and so the attacker can, even if you're asking for etc password, if you go download etc password, the remote end can go, yeah, etc password's a directory, and then Metasploit will perform dir.download, and dir.download, actually no, I'm going to make myself actually a reasonable size now that we're just discussing stuff. There we go. Dir.download from the Metasploit end asks Meterpreter to perform an ls of the directory being downloaded, and the file names that then come back from that ls get iterated over, and a download gets performed, and there's nothing stopping Meterpreter from saying there is a file named ... temp /doot. For example, here. I did an ls of a directory called tasty loot, and Meterpreter's like, shit, yeah, there's a file called ... temp /doot.text in there. And Meterpreter, when I went to download that directory to my home directory, would download this file here to that path there, and you got a directory traversal. So even though file names can't have slashes in them, there's nothing stopping Meterpreter from claiming there is a file name with a slash in it. The last bug was in the the parsing of clipboard dumps, and it was a directory traversal, but you could only go up one level. You couldn't go ... Best you could do is when the user says, I want to download every file that has been copied to the clipboard to my file system, Meterpreter can go, yeah, cool, there's a file named ... C drive / users / Justin / desktop / doot / on the clipboard. and Meterpreter would then download that file to, ~tastyloot//, which means that you can overwrite arbitrary files in someone's home directory if they're saving files to a directory in their home directory. So it was to do with the saving of files that were copied to the victim's clipboard, and you could traverse up exactly one directory if you wished. So that's it from me tonight. Any questions, queries, concerns about the things that we covered? Did that make sense? Was that useful? Any questions before we head off and call it a bit of an early one? Null's gone for gold. Yeah. See there, you don't need to be better. You just need to make sure my expectations are managed better. Hey. I was for a little bit of Adventure Time, but that was just to basically patch the Meterpreter source code. Honestly, if you start from the beginning of this stream in the Twitch VODs or on YouTube, hopefully you'll pick up what we were doing and why we were doing it. There was C for the Meterpreter stuff. Metasploit was Ruby. Yeah, Adventure Time, that was Meterpreter over in Visual Studio, which is the payload that Metasploit provides for running on your victim's machine. Jadeth, I will shortly. I'll let people know before I head down to Melbourne what I'm doing. I'm just kind of crossing some I's and dotting some T's right now. Do I use a version of Debian I've customized, or Kali, or Black Arch? That's a really good question. Am I going to cons? Yes, I'm actually speaking Slickus. Adventure Time, I'll come back to that in a second. Slickus, I'm speaking at Crikey. So if you're at Crikey, come give me a big cuddle. I'd love to meet people. Simply, yeah, that's probably what you found is all that's supposed to be there. If you've checked out my Twitter bio and you've read a few other things, then that's what I've decided to publish. I haven't published where I'm currently working. I will be explaining where I'm working next in due course. I'm moving to Melbourne shortly. No more 1 hour late sleeps. Going to Vic Police. Not. What OS do I run? I run Debian. Yeah, sure, it's customized because it's my install and I've got my stuff there, but it's my host OS is just Debian. This is the i3 window manager. All the details of my OS and my software setup are down in the description. But this is the i3 window manager. This here is Windows running in a VirtualBox, so I can run Visual Studio and IDA. This here is Metasploit running actually inside a Docker container. I use Docker just to kind of compartmentalize and loosely isolate some of the things I work on. It's also just a convenience thing. I like having my set of software bundled up in a clean image, and then whenever I want to work on a project, I can spin up all my tools. I've got Metasploit, I've got a different container that's got actually Burp. I think might be in this one, but I've got another container that has Burp and Chromium. This container has SQL Map and GoBuster and WP Scan and whatever else I decide that is useful to me, I will put it in my image. And it means that when I go to work on something, I can just go and spin this image up. I know where the software is, I know it's clean, I know it's up to date, and I don't have junk from other projects. I don't have patches on software that I needed for one thing but don't need for the other. It means it's a clean environment each and every time. I like to work inside Docker. It's quite neat. But no, I don't use Kali or Black Arch. I just use the tools that I use installed on Debian and usually in Docker containers. It sucks. Yeah, next year. Crikey's good. It's only a one-dayer, but it's good. There's some good people that hang out there. And the stuff that happens outside the conference, the PubCon, is always a lot of fun. That's it for me tonight. Thank you very much for tuning in. I think I'm free this Sunday. I know I've been super slack with, delaying streams or cancelling streams. I am going to drop down. I haven't decided how I'm going to formally do it, but I will be dropping down to one stream a week shortly. I just don't know if there's the content to keep up with twice a week, and I don't know if people really have that much free time to spend hanging out, so I'm going to drop down to one stream a week. I don't know whether it's going to be Wednesdays or Sundays, or if we're going to change the time completely. If you If one works better for you, then then let me know. But we'll be dropping down to 1 stream a week shortly. I don't really know what we're doing this Sunday. I might have another bug to talk about. I don't really want to go through the other 2 Metasploit bugs. They're both the same thing as the first one we covered. But I've got some other bugs coming out shortly that the software project keeps telling me they've got the patches. I've checked the patches. They just need to basically, I think, do some more testing, then document the patches, because they're going to be breaking changes to the way that this software works. So I think there's going to be a blog post shortly that explains to users of the software what's changing and the features that they have to break in order to provide security. But when those patches drop, we'll have another stream like this where we go through the code and I explain what I saw and I explain what I thought and I explain what I found, and I probably see something out of the corner of my eye and go, oh, that's O'Day, I probably shouldn't draw attention to that. Then I take a break and then I find out if it's O'Day or not. That's going to happen. But we'll be discussing how to find the bugs, what the bugs mean, and how to exploit maybe 1 or 2 of them. Sunday's perfect due to time zone differences. Cashew, thanks very much for your kind words. Glad you enjoyed it. Adventure Time, it's good to have you around. I hope you do too. You remember Sunday? Oh, I thought you were saying you actually remember when I used to stream on Sundays. I thought that was a bit of a jab that I hadn't streamed the last couple of Sundays. Alright, that's it from me. Thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you for keeping me company, and I will catch you all on the flip side.